Guys, before we start talking about muscular blonde men and evil skeletons, I want to direct you over to the Outerhaven.net or at IRFondly on Twitter, where you can enter in for a chance to win an art print based on Masters of the Universe. Now, hit the sweet 80s theme song! Hey everybody, welcome to the premiere episode of I Remember It Fondly, the Outerhaven's official podcast where we talk about the movies we love. Joining me today is my co-host Joe. Joe, how are you today?
Good, Cody, thanks.
And also joining us today is Karl Smart, fellow writer at the Outerhaven. Karl, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. I'm all ready to talk about men in loincloths and people in rubber skeleton masks. Let's go. All right.
Awesome, yeah. Since this is the premiere episode, we'll give a little gist of what the podcast is about. It's called I Remember It Fondly, and basically, we all grew up watching tons of movies, hundreds of hours spent watching a whole range of films, and we're here to figure out if it was all worth it, or if it was all just a big waste of time. We watched Masters of the Universe. This movie was crazy. Right from the get-go, this movie was nuts. This is a film that I remember seeing as a kid. I didn't own the film, so I didn't see it a whole bunch of times like maybe some of the other films we might talk about on the podcast eventually, like Three Ninjas or The Lost Boys or something like that. But I remember renting it when I was a kid. I loved it. I watched it a few times, and it was just one of those films I never picked up. But man, this movie was nuts. So Karl, this was when I brought up the podcast to everybody at the Outerhaven. You were the first to jump on it and say that you wanted to be on and you had to do this movie. Is there a reason why you want to let us in on, your sort of experience with Masters of the Universe?
Well, yeah, I'm an 80s kid. I was born in 1983, so I grew up at the peak of things like He-Man's and the Masters of the Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers. And it was always a big thing back then when one of the films, or one of the TV properties that you saw as a kid got this big theatrical release. And not only was it He-Man and the Masters of the Universe getting an actual theatrical release, it was a live-action adaptation. Yeah, this was very unheard of back then, and was very hit and miss. So I was so happy to see something that I used to watch on television up on the big TV screen, and for once it wasn't the actual basis of what He-Man was. For those people who have never really jumped into He-Man as a whole, it's a quirky sci-fi fantasy, barbarians mixed with technology sort of fantasy universe designed in, surprisingly enough, back when I was born, 1983 through 1985, which the main purpose at the time was to sell toys.
Oh, sure. And I had a lot of toys. I had, I don't recall watching the cartoon all that much. I know I had watched it. I don't remember a bunch of it, but what I do remember is having a ton of action figures.
Yeah. He-Man existed mainly in plastic form for me. That's how I remember He-Man. This was my first time seeing Masters of the Universe.
So this is your first time watching the film?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was definitely to sell toys. I had the toys. A funny story, I had a Castle Grayskull, and I used to sit out on Friday mornings and wait for the garbage man to come, and I would give him quarters. I would give him tips. I thought that was a cool job. And I would hang out, and he would come and get our trash, and I'd be like, here's your quarter. He humored me, and then my parents threw away my Castle Grayskull.
Why would they do that?
I'm not sure why they did, but they did. It must have been old or something like that. And I remember chasing down the garbage man down the street, and he stopped and he climbed back there and got it out for me. And I just remember that.
Give an extra quarter that day.
Yeah. Here, 50 cents today. But no, I like to think that giving that guy a quarter every week saved Castle Grayskull for me.
It paid off for you.
Yeah, sure.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, really, it's funny. Did you have a lot of the toys?
I grew up with a lot of the figures. I actually have gone out of my way in more recent years to pick up the Masters of the Universe Classics line that was brought out through Matty Collector, which is sort of the higher grade, higher detail collectible figures based on the originals. But I've also started trying to track down some of the original toys as well.
Awesome. So are you a big collector?
I am. Over the last probably about 5 or so years in particular, I have gone back and tried to recapture as much of my childhood as I could. Whether it be through, like, I've got a full set of the 1984 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle re-releases that they did for the 25th anniversary. I've got all the He-Man stuff. I recently went and picked up an original PlayStation unit. Why? Because I wanted to play PlayStation games.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like, I have memories like you, being a kid. I also had Castle Grayskull, and I played with that thing until like none of the plastic ridges that would hold all the platforms and the drawbridge in place was falling apart and everything. But it always turns out though that you always find out a lot of people had Castle Grayskull, but they always knew the kid that had Snake Mountain.
Oh yeah,
because you couldn't wait to get your hand on Snake Mountain, because the gimmick with Snake Mountain, which is Skeletor's fortress, is that you could take the snake that was coiling around the actual building off, and it was this microphone that had a very deep voice changer in it.
Oh.
And you would spend
awesome.
hours
That's awesome
talking
technology.
into that thing.
You know, in the 80s.
Oh, that's the peak.
Yeah, it's great. That's like the Talk Boy when Home Alone 2 came out.
Oh god, I remember the commercial for the Talk Boy.
Yeah, I had a Talk
Bad
Boy.
commercials.
Yeah,
I pranked my grandma with a Talk Boy.
So, okay, obviously we all have a little bit of experience. Joe, you know, you may have never seen the film before this, so what was your first, what's your first reaction? I will obviously talk more about it, but what did you think about it?
What can I say? It wasn't as ridiculous, wasn't as bad as I thought, as I've heard. It was watchable. Like, I actually wanted to sit down and finish watching it, and I enjoyed it. It has some people that I really liked, some actors that I enjoy.
Like who?
Like Robert Duncan McNeil.
And
so Lieutenant Paris from Voyager.
Okay.
Star Trek Voyager is a big part of my life right now.
And that was Kevin, right?
Yeah.
So he's in Star Trek Voyager right now?
Yeah.
Well, he was in Voyager. Yeah. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, it's Lieutenant Paris.
And Courtney Cox.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
A lot of people that I recognize.
Okay, so let's jump into the film a little bit. Right from the get-go, this movie was funny to me because it started out, and maybe you guys think the same way, it started out as a trailer to me. With the voiceover of what Grayskull is and sort of what surrounds Grayskull, how whoever, you know, has Grayskull as masters of the universe and stuff.
It was basically the too long didn't read version of the He-Man mythos.
Yeah,
really.
yeah, sure, yeah, it really was. Yeah, in case you missed it, this is what He-Man is. And actually watching the movie, it seemed like that intro was a trailer to sort of a better movie for me than what we got, in a way. I sort of wish it was more about Grayskull and more about some sort of siege on Grayskull or something like that. But we'll get into that. And then the intro song and the sort of, the intro credits was crazy. It was awesome. It was so 80s. I don't know. I mean, the movie sometimes really wanted to be Star Wars.
Yeah, I was picking up on a few similarities.
Black stormtroopers.
Yeah.
You know what? Skeletor's basic like faceless minions were basically black stormtroopers, right?
Well, that's the thing. This was very heavily influenced by Star Wars. You know, it came out in 1987 originally. So, you know,
great
year
I was born.
For a lot of stuff. But it took like the text scroll, a narrator going over sort of in case you've missed what this is about, very 80s like tropes for movies. The Black Stormtroopers are actually heavily influenced by the Stormtroopers in Star Wars.
No.
And that's sort of what they were trying to do, was they were trying to do the sci-fi fantasy version of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Using He-Man as the base property. Probably could have been because Mattel had a hand in the toy lines for both, but I can't remember if Mattel had Star Wars at the time.
So you seem to know a little bit more about it. So were these sort of Stormtrooper knockoffs part of the original He-Man series?
There were Stormtrooper knockoffs in the cartoon series, but it wasn't in the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon. It was more the She-Ra Princess of Power.
Okay.
The main villain there, Hordak, had his Horde troopers, which were basically like smaller versions of Juggernaut from the X-Men. And they were his stormtroopers of sorts.
Gotcha. And that actually makes me think of something. When you talk about She-Ra, some of the names of the characters in the He-Man universe and in this film are so descriptive, right? They leave nothing to imagination. Here's He-Man. He-Man, yeah. And Skeletor, who is a skeleton. Beast-Man, who is a beast man. Evil Lyn, who is an evil person apparently named Lyn.
An evil sorceress. You had one of the mercenaries that Skeletor hires in the film about halfway through is called Blade, and what happens? He's a guy with swords.
Yeah. It's me, Blade. Guess what I do?
And of course, the main military guy for the good guy's side is called Man at Arms.
Man at Arms, yeah.
Yeah, Man at Arms. So funny. And actually, that Blade guy, he really got into slicing stuff. He loved it. In the scene where they're right after Courtney Cox runs away from the high school, and they pretty much burn it down or whatever, and they fight He-Man by that place with the fence and all this sort of random stuff, these boxes and stuff like that. You know the scene? He's like cutting the fence. He's like, yeah, like, and all he's doing is just cutting his fence. And he's just so happy to slice things.
He's so satisfied.
He's so satisfied cutting
so
things
cleanly.
Yeah, that was really funny to me. And speaking of these guys, Skeletor's like, give me some people to send after He-Man, okay? And we'll get into a second how they're in a completely different dimension and the insanity of that in a second. But he's like, yeah, we need to catch He-Man. I want He-Man in the key. So Evil Lyn says, I've gathered your, I don't know the exact line, but basically your most competent mercenaries, right?
Yeah.
And
these are the guys.
These are the guys that Skeletor needs.
Sending that. You don't have to go, Skeletor.
Yeah.
The most powerful one of all. You're not going. These guys can go and do it for you. These are the ones we're picking.
Yeah, and not to jump ahead, but when Skeletor does go, it's very obvious that he could have done it all himself. He's very powerful. Right?
That was a running theme even through the TV series. Skeletor always had a bunch of minions. You know, he had like Merman, Beastman, Trapjaw, Triclops, and a whole heap of others.
Who's the character whose head spun around in the helmet? Is that from He-Man?
Manny Faces. Man, I'm not kidding. That's the name of the guy. And the fact that I'm doing all this without Wikipedia help shows you how much my brain remembers this stuff.
Oh my god!
But like, that was always the thing. Like, Skeletor would always have some sort of plan or something that kept him very hands off the actual fighting until he really needed to be involved. So it's good to see that they kept that in the film, but at the same time, way to sort of spoil a chance to bring in some real classic villains. The only one that came over from the television show besides Evil Lyn was Beastman. The other three were actually original inventions for the movie.
Karg.
Oh, Karg. They might not have been the best characters, but the dinosaur, the dinosaur mercenary, Sorod, that was some good makeup. When you only see him for a little bit, like in good light, just when he's introduced. But I was actually really impressed with the makeup on that one.
I liked Skeletor's makeup. I didn't think that was bad at all.
No, Skeletor's performance.
We'll get to that. Frank Langella did, I think, the best job in the film.
God,
he was not phoning it in.
He was so good.
He was getting near Shakespearean with his sort of demeanor as Skeletor. But I thought the makeup was pretty good for most of the characters. I hated Gwildor's cheeks, his gills or whatever they are. Yeah, those made me sick.
Never got over that.
But no, these mercenaries, like I was saying, he sends these mercenaries in, and these are your top mercenaries. They're bad mercenaries. Do you agree? I mean, they show up to this high school, they set everything on fire, they start slicing around. Courtney Cox is just a little kid.
They do a lot of running around in circles, kind of The kind of buffoony.
Yeah, they do, and she's crawling under the stage, and Blade's like, she's mine, and like stabs some swords down and stops her in her tracks. But she gets right away. These are supposed to be the best mercenaries, and they're bad looking dudes, and they mostly just growl. You know, Beastman does a lot of growling.
I could probably catch Courtney Cox.
You probably could.
No, you set her loose out front. I'll catch her.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. They were not very good mercenaries. So let's get to the plot of the film, right? So, and maybe you can answer this for me, Carl. Did they ever go to another dimension? Were they ever not on Eternia in the show?
There's many chances where they went to the dimension where She-Ra's whole thing takes place. That's a completely different dimension. They have actually been to Earth on quite a few occasions.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the ones that I would love to get to at one later point in time is the He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special, which involves Orko, who's a little floating mage type character.
Yep. Yeah. Why was he not in the film?
Practically kidnaps two kids. That teaches everybody on Eternia, including Skeletor, the meaning of Christmas. That's one that gets to at a later point. As for why Orko wasn't in this, it was just the amount of effects would have been needed back then to sort of get this
he kind of
floating
floats,
mage.
Right?
Yeah. That's why you had Gwildor.
Yeah, that's why we had Gwildor.
Orko stand-in.
Gwildor the locksmith.
The locksmith and inventor.
And crazy good inventor. Yeah. He's a locksmith. He made a key. Which is a key to different dimensions.
The prop work in this movie was good.
You liked it?
I mean, I don't know if it was good, but it was plentiful.
It was plentiful.
They had so many gadgets. They had a gadget for everything, and they're all the size of my head.
Yeah, and then you know what's funny is when you talk about the gadgets.
That was 80 seconds.
Oh, I loved it.
This was back in the time where a cell phone,
sure,
a portable mobile phone was basically the size of like a portable hard drive.
Yeah.
You know, just a gigantic brick of a thing.
Yeah.
That was 80s technology. It was big, it was bulky, but it worked.
Yeah, it was. You're right. It was plentiful too. There was a lot of stuff, and I think no more demonstrated than in the scene where they needed a few things to fix the key. Yeah. Do you guys know this scene? So this is. Again, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but towards the end, they're fixing the key so they can go back to Earth. And Gwildor says, "I need these 3 things."
Like,
I can't even remember what they're called.
So I have a amplifier.
Yeah,
what
he's like, I have an automated amplifier. Like, they all just have these things, and I mean,
He-Man had very many gadgets just on his loincloth, right? At least
utility loin.
What was that? It was a utility loin.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
No one had pockets.
Everything's just hanging off of them, classically.
Yeah. I enjoyed the gadgets though.
Yeah, no, and a lot of laser guns, a lot of
laser beams.
A lot of laser beams in this film.
Different beams.
He-Man used his sword half the time, and he shot people most of the time.
Yeah.
Did he shoot a lot of people in the animated series, Carl? Did he have a chance to use a laser rifle?
He very rarely used a gun.
Yeah,
that's
what
rarely.
I imagined.
He did use them, but most of the time it was his sword.
Sure.
But then again, in the cartoon, his sword could actually transform into all sorts of things. It could actually transform into a rope that he could use to climb places and stuff. It was very weird. Like I gave up even trying to work out half the stuff in that cartoon.
So generally, he had a laser gun attached to the hip, to use at his discretion. Like
I don't think he did. He didn't have a gun holstered.
If you had a He-Man toy, would he have had a holstered gun as an accessory?
Well, not in the original run. Not in the original early '80s He-Man stuff. They did a second series later called The New Adventures of He-Man.
Yeah.
Which was set in space. At that point, he did get a gun, as well as his sword went from being an actual proper sword to being a laser sword.
Oh, so you could shoot beams from the sword itself?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Standard issue. You got to get a laser gun if you're going to go to space.
Now, back to my question where I asked if they went to other dimensions. That answers a lot for me in this film because, obviously in the plot of the film, there's a key. Gwildor has a key. Skeletor has the mate to this key, right? Or just another key.
Yeah. Well, he has the prototype. Okay. Basically, the key that we're referring to is an interdimensional transport device
Yeah.
Which the reason why it's called a key is because there's many little pressed down buttons around the edging, and it makes musical sounds like, a keyboard. So Skeletor's got one after he's captured Grayskull and the Sorceress. He's now in control of Grayskull. Sorceress is his prisoner. He got the key somehow. And
They sort of fooled Gwildor, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, Evelyn did.
Yeah.
And He-Man's this leader of a little rebellion group that's trying to take on Skeletor. And through saving Gwildor, they learn of the existence of the key, and they go to try and use it to confront Skeletor at Castle Grayskull and bypass all the protection that he's got around the outside of the building. Instead, well, they get in, they battle, and then it's like, we need a quick retreat. Gwildor, use the key to get us somewhere. And boop.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, anywhere. So they end up on Earth, of all places.
Yeah.
Because, that's what happened in the 80s. If you were going to do one of these out of lost in area things, it would usually be aliens end up lost
a sort of
in
lost
California,
civilization story.
You're gonna fall or on Earth in the 80s.
Yeah. I thought that was really funny. They go, and then basically the rest of the plot of the movie is them trying to get back to Earth, find the key because a young Courtney Cox and her boyfriend have the key. They need to find them, they need to get the key, they need to get back to Eternia and do what they set out to do in the beginning of the film, which is confront Skeletor and take back Grayskull and free the Sorceress, right? With a lot of ridiculousness in between and a lot of funny scenes. But when I was wondering if they had went to other dimensions in the series, was because they are so nonchalant about arriving on Earth. They just sort of laugh it off. They're like, okay. I think they make some jokes for a minute about Gwildor being like nearly drowning in the pond.
Yeah.
That they land at. They all sort of laugh at him. They're like, yeah. Then he shoots water out of his disgusting gill face. Oh my gosh.
Look, one of my favorite parts actually happens when they first arrive on Earth. Is when they're trying to look for food,
and they go to the rib.
And they go to the rib shack, and Gwildor is able to procure a bucket of fried chicken.
And those chicken and ribs.
The exchange between Man-at-Arms and Teela is just hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, so this is a scene that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I have this one written down too.
So go ahead and set up the scene, Carl.
So basically, the three of them, Gwildor, Man-at-Arms, and Teela, have just been able to get a bucket of chicken, just take it straight out of this person's car.
Oh, they used the claw.
No, the two people in the front seat were making out.
Yeah, the people in the front seat were making out, and they just steal the bucket of the chicken. Because, nobody's going to care about the chicken.
Yeah.
Well, no, okay, so what's funny is they're all looking at the rib shack, and they all arrive there, even though they're supposed to be searching different quadrants.
Yeah.
Right? But they all sort of arrive at except for He-Man, he's not there. Yeah. But, they all sort of have their eye on it, but Gwildor uses his his grappling hook claw to grab the bucket of chicken out of the back seat, which was insane. That grappling hook was crazy when it shot back out of the portal when they first went to Earth and grabbed the key.
Right when you think Skeletor's got his hands on the key.
Oh my god, then it shoots right back through. Yeah. That was insane to me. I was like, what? Oh my gosh.
Skeletor off so much.
So
they've got the
chicken.
They've got the ribs or the chicken or whatever it was. I can't remember if it was actually ribs or chicken.
I think it's a little bit of both because it looks like Man-at-Arms is eating chicken.
He had a chicken leg.
Yeah.
Teela was eating a rib, and
Gwildor was drowning himself in barbecue sauce.
I've got the line straight from the script, so I'm gonna read it verbatim.
Yeah, please.
And you'll hear me say the name Duncan. Duncan is the real name of Man-at-Arms.
Man-at-Arms.
Yeah.
So it starts at Duncan. Good food. Teela goes, I wonder why they put the meat on these little white sticks. Duncan replies, those are rib bones. Teela sort of pauses in shock and goes, you mean this used to be an animal? And Duncan's just eating it up like no problem. And Teela looks at him and goes, what a barbaric world. And Duncan just goes, never think while you're hungry.
Okay, so this was crazy to me because did they not eat meat on Eternia?
They did, but and the funny thing is,
only
it was
boneless. Only boneless.
No,
ones.
actually, it
Because
was
she was so
it was like that cartoon. It was sort of like the Flintstones style, the big meat.
Yeah.
Big ass rib on the side of your.
Big ass piece of meat with the bone straight through the middle, and
Yeah.
they'd eat that type of stuff in the cartoon. So it was sort of weird to see this line in there, and it's just like, and Gwildor at the end of it's like, I thought it was fine, and it just keeps going.
Yeah. As he's pouring
Yeah.
barbecue sauce
Is
or
that-
something.
Is that gravy or is that barbecue?
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think it was gravy or barbecue
I
sauce?
was just concerned about how they're gonna get out
I'd
of his beard.
probably say it was gravy.
Gravy. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Joe, you're
I
right.
won
Joe,
that one.
Joe and I were
Thanks.
talking about this earlier.
I appreciate that, Carl.
But yeah, that was amazing to me. And so it seems like that was just a sort of addition to make the Eternians, if that's what they're called, seem more advanced.
Yeah.
Right? That they don't even eat meat off of bones. You know what I mean? They don't even really eat dead animals. Like Tila's not going to lower herself to this sort of level of humans who just eat some random meat.
Yeah, maybe they don't have meat.
Well, he Carl just said that they would eat big meat, with bones on it. So, yeah, that was crazy that that's in there. But I think that was in there to be like, Eternians are more advanced, right? That was just a sort of line to do that. And also, maybe you guys can answer me. Why was the cow wandering around in the woods?
That was a wild.
Why was there a wild
That
cow?
was a wild
Be-
American
be-
cow.
because in all these again, you're looking at 1980s movie tropes.
Yeah.
One of the weird things that you would always find in these, whether the alien, the friendly alien is lost in the countryside or something, they'll come across a cow.
And they think that's the intelligent species
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
the intelligent
ambassador
species.
for Earth.
Yeah.
Even another 1980s film that I'd love to take a look at a later point in time, Short Circuit.
Oh,
Did the
yeah,
same
okay.
thing, where it's a robot that gains sentience, but it's like the level of a 5-year-old.
Right.
So he escapes the military base where they were designed and everything, and he runs into a cow, and he's trying to communicate with a cow,
yeah.
like it's a living sentient being. And
this
not
must
getting a
be
real
this,
reply.
this large animal must be something
Talk to the poor creature.
It was just so funny because there's not really wild cows in suburban areas.
He was just lost.
He was just lost. Yeah. That was
He was
really
on his
funny.
way to another movie gig. It's all good.
Yeah.
I like to think he was going to the rib joint.
I'm going to get revenge for my fallen brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. And so yeah, that was funny because they did sort of just shake off the idea that they landed on Earth and were in another dimension. They didn't really seem to bother, and they just thought we'll split up, we'll find the key, and we'll go back.
I was thinking He-Man was scared. He just didn't want to show how unnerved he was about being another. He was on a. Wilder said they could be on any number of planets. I don't think they said anything about dimensions. I think
So I guess that's a question: is Eternia?
he said it could be any number of planets on in any galaxy.
Well, and then when we actually see the sort of transition scenes and some of that, and when Skeletor is having them look up and find the signal of the key, because that's the other plot is Skeletor and his minions go to Earth because his prototype key can help pinpoint where He-Man is, because when the key they have is in use, right? They sort of speak to each other. It's sort of like Voldemort and Harry Potter's wands or something. So what happens is when Skeletor is pinpointing where they are, we see this like sort of zooming in on Earth. We see this shot where it sort of transitions. We see like some planets. We see like the sun and the solar system, and it's like click, 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 goes into Earth, and he's like, yeah, that's fine, or something like that. He's like, that's all we need. So was this a different dimension, or is this just a different planet?
I was thinking it was a planet.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard him say anything about dimension. I'm not sure if they really understood either. Wilder didn't seem too confident.
They sort of. They don't really hint at it any which way or the other, but when you listen later in the film, Gildor's sort of explaining how the cosmic key works, and it's all about tones, and it seems that space and time revolves around musical notes.
Music.
Yeah, the tones, such a
a weird concept, but works
it's
so
a weird
well.
concept, but yeah, it's so good because it allows our young male counterpart to Courtney Cox to be able to sort of save the day with his musicianship.
It's like, you're a music maker.
Yeah, a music master. Yeah, he's a music master. Yeah,
I love when they're trying to identify the key, like Kevin is the character that's there with Julie, who's Courtney Cox's character. They're trying to identify what it is, and they take it into a music shop, and it's like, man, I've never seen anything like this before. Must be Japanese.
It's Japanese. Yeah, they say that a couple times. This is Japanese. And he's like, I don't know, man.
No, actually, I think the detective was worried it might be Russian.
He was.
Or Charlie was worried it might be Russian. I think a lot of people were worried about the Russians then.
Well, this is, towards the end of the Cold War here. So I'm not surprised that there was a jab at Russians.
You don't think it's Russian, do you?
Yeah, pretty interesting, yeah. And they just play the key now. He's like, yeah, now press the little red button, right? And it's not red until you press it. I don't know if you guys noticed that. So just a little thing. He presses the button, it turns red once you push it. But he tells the owner of the music store, and is that Charlie?
Charlie.
That's Charlie. Okay. Yeah, he's like, press the little red button. I'm not sure he could know which button was the red button because it was off.
He pressed it.
Yeah. So,
with a nice little hologram, little kaleidoscope.
Yeah, very much like Futurama. And what's the instrument they play on Futurama?
The holophoner or the
the holophoner.
Holophoner.
Yeah. So there were all these interesting moments, and that was sort of some comedy moments where they're like, it was like a running gag that this thing must be Japanese, or what is this thing? And there was actually a lot of these weird comedy moments thrown into this action film. When they blow up the microwave, I thought that was hilarious. He puts in a bucket. He puts the chicken. He has some chicken that Courtney Cox gave him when she got off her shift. She works at the Rib Shack, by the way. So Kevin is with a police officer. And that guy's hilarious too. What else is he in? I'm trying to think of.
That's the principal.
That's the principal from Back to the Future. Yeah. Okay. He's a bad cop, by the way. Not a bad cop as in a crooked cop. He's just a terrible police officer.
He's an incompetent detective.
He's very, as far as like procedure might go, I would say he's pretty terrible cop.
I mean, I think he realized there was something up with that.
He knew something was up with the key. He did. So he's trying to. They're at Courtney Cox's house. She's not home because. So when the mercenaries came and they sort of raided the high school and they basically caught it on fire, Kevin goes, Julie's there. Is that her name?
Julie, yeah.
Julie. She's like, Julie's at the high school. So he goes back there, and it's nothing but cops. Julie's gone. She's already met He-Man. He's saved the day as far as Julie's concerned. He bested the mercenaries who tell Skeletor like, we were ambushed by a bunch of people. But they like the evil Lynn has this like weird device that lets her see what happened in the past. This sort of scanner.
Yeah, that was one of the gadgets.
That's another gadget
that got me.
And she's like, they watch just He-Man beat the shit out of all of them. And she's like, more like your pride was hurt or something like that. Yeah. Something to that effect.
That was actually good. That was a good.
I thought that was pretty cool. As far as the gadgets go, yeah. That was pretty cool. But so they're at Courtney Cox's house because Kevin showed up to the high school to try to find her. It's just cops. This cop's there. His name's James Tolkien, I think. Detective Lubick is his name. And he says,
Lubrick.
Yeah. He says, okay, well, we'll go to your girlfriend's house. Maybe she's there, all right? You're not getting away because he's like, I was just here and this place is on fire. You'd think you would take him downtown for some questioning.
Yeah.
But instead he's like, let's go to your girlfriend's house and see if we can find her there, right? So they go. He knows there's something up with this weird key. Courtney Cox calls. Kevin does the worst phone lying.
Oh, yeah.
On film. He's like,
Yeah, just keep it down to yes or no, or...
he's constantly glancing.
Just weird lines trying to make sure the cop doesn't hear him.
Yeah, he's saying, no, she's not here,
Really, really worried about her, though.
Yeah, but he's glancing over his shoulder at Detective Lubrick the whole time, and it's very obvious it sums up. And he smells it, too. He's like, yeah, that was her on the phone, or something like that. So he's like, blah, blah, and he puts a bucket of chicken in the microwave. Meanwhile... Evil Lynn and one of these stormtrooper knockoffs are honing in on where the key is.
Yeah.
And he says, I can't track it anymore because there's some interference, which is the microwave. And he's like, they're using a jammer or something. They're jamming the frequency. And she's like, well, destroy the jammer. And And he's like, "Oh, I can't do that." Like, he said something to that
No,
effect.
he pushes he's got this little trackpad, and he just pushes a couple of keys on this trackpad, and all of a sudden the microwave just goes to like real high frequency and explodes.
It explodes.
Oh, nice.
But
Another gadget.
like that scene though, like when Skeletor's forces first arrive on Earth, it's that very like you got the big pack of troopers coming in, you got a couple of floating platforms, then you got the main one that Evil ends on. How awesome does that look for something that was done in like 1987?
I sort of loved those.
Yeah.
And when Skeletor came on his in the end, it was sort of more of a grand thing. I loved that shot.
He had like the Palpatine dome behind him.
Oh, it was such a good shot because like it had some of those stormtroopers were like walking, these guards were walking, some minions were going by, and then his like large floating sort of throne moves through the portal, and I was like, oh man, Skeletor's here, dude. You better fucking watch out.
You feel it.
You feel it, Skeletor's here.
Some gravitas.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, he's not gonna arrive, solo. He's got a emissary or something with him, right? So that was great. But the microwave thing, all this sort of other laughter, and like these sort of like the eating chicken scene. There's all these like funny movements.
All dressing up in human clothing to try and be inconspicuous was absolutely hilarious because that's the first time they meet Kevin, and Kevin just looks at Gwildor and goes, "What the hell is that?" And Gwildor thinks it's because he's got wearing the clothes that he can't tell he's alien.
Not that he has these insane cheek gills and pointy ears and his nose. He's constantly closing his one eye, which that actor does a lot. He's in Willow, I want to say, as well. And he's in, I think, a lot of movies where they feature, little
Bill
people who...
Bartley. Barty is the guy's name.
He's in a lot of stuff.
He was in Willow. He was in UHF.
Probably in Legend.
Quite possibly. He was in like the rotoscoped Lord of the Rings from 1978.
Okay. Yeah, so there's really funny moments that are just stuck in the film at random points. So we were talking about Detective Lubick. I want to talk about him for a second. He is an insane cop. So not only does he not take Kevin downtown for questioning or something like that, he they go to, he's like, or no, let's go see my friend Charlie at the music store. He'll tell you what this thing is. It's a synthesizer, right? So they go there. He-Man shows up too. Like Courtney Cox shows up. They're all there, and they sort of have like a showdown at the music store, right? Mm-hmm. And never once does so He-Man and Man-at-Arms make a sort of when they realize that Evil Lyn and the mercenaries are coming, they make like a barricade out of like keyboards and various music instruments, and they sort of have a battle. They have Tila take everybody in the back, right? Take them back there, keep them all quiet, keep them safe, right? Detective Lubick, Charlie, Courtney Cox, and Kevin. So they're all back there, and Evil Lyn and the mercenaries show up, and a bunch of the just like minions, and they have this like huge shootout in this music store, right? Which was insane because when I first saw them making a barricade out of keyboards, I was like, is this something where they don't understand about Earth? That keyboards are not, I mean, you can shoot right through one. Yeah. This isn't a stone or something barricade. They're like, yeah, all these keyboards will protect us. I thought that was really funny. But never once does Detective Lubick call for backup until way later.
No, he's a lone wolf. This whole movie.
He doesn't even try. He just is like, okay, we need to get back. Oh my God, they're shooting at each other out there.
Oh, they're killing each other out there.
Yeah, he says that line.
It's like, your buddies are dying out there, and Tila has to go out.
She's like, gives the gun to Kevin. Which is Detective Lubick's gun. Yeah. If I'm right. It's like a little snub-nosed kind of revolver.
That. Yeah.
She gives it to Kevin, and she's like, watch them. So Kevin is faced with this dilemma of holding a gun on a cop.
He's never held a gun in his life.
He's a teenager. He's never held a gun.
That was the first time he has to point it at a cop.
He has to hold it on a cop. He's like, I still got to live on Earth after you guys are gone. And he says this. Detective Lubick calls him out. He's like, you guys are going to jail after this.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to prison, buddy. You're holding a gun on a cop.
So I'm gonna put you away for 750 years.
So I thought that seemed
I've
hilarious.
actually got the exact line of that here.
Oh, let's
somewhere.
hear it. Perfect.
Like
So funny.
this film is extremely quote worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things about it. Is like, especially in the later half, you get Skeletor's monologuing.
Oh man, yeah.
Near the end of the film, it's just
It's so
brilliant.
great.
It's overacting, but it's
His performance.
So yeah, the lyric line for that was, "When this is over, you're going to jail. Accessory to assault, resisting arrest, endangering lives. I guarantee you and all your buddies, I'm going to put you away for 850 years."
You and all your buddies. Who? Charlie and He-Man and Man-at-Arms?
Yeah,
these guys?
he was so ready to put He-Man and Teela and Man-at-Arms and Gwildor and everything. He didn't care. They're all going to jail.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. And he eventually does call back up after they get out of this situation. And it's one of those sort of trope moments where, somebody's like, oh, we need help, we need backup, and they all show up and they're all gone.
Yeah.
Because I think the mercenaries and everybody went back to Eternia, right?
Yeah.
At that moment, and the cops sort of are like, oh yeah, Lubick. They're like, where are they? And he's just like, I swear they were right here.
It's sort of like if you've seen Terminator Genesis.
Oh yeah. Let's watch that.
Oh, what's his name?
You're talking about J.K. Simmons?
Yeah, J.K. Simmons' character in that, where
Yeah.
it's like, I knew about this robot that came through and killed all these people, and nobody believed him.
Yeah,
And then when he finally
killer robots.
Yeah, it's that exact same thing with Lubric. It's like, I swear they were here a minute ago.
All these crazy people, like, some of them are half naked, some of them have, laser guns. One guy has a sword. One guy has two swords. And let's talk about lines for a second. Like you're saying, this movie is very quote-worthy. I thought there was a funny line. So Gwildor is an inventor and a locksmith, right? Mm-hmm. And then when they first get into trouble within like the first 10 minutes of the film, and what's his name? Karg shows up, which this film does not do a good job at establishing certain characters that we are supposed to learn the names of and follow. The first time we see Karg, he is shot from like a long shot and shows up, and they're like doing like a siege on, like a raid on Gwildor's home. And it's like, this is a character we're going to follow for part of the movie, and there's no establishing shot where we see like, oh, this is Karg with this weird white hair and this like reptilian face. Yeah. We see him from afar, and then we just so the scene doesn't do great, or the movie doesn't do a great job of establishing certain characters.
I thought Karg looked like a mean old lady.
Karg did look like a mean old lady, yeah, but he moved like a child.
Sort of remind me of like a really deformed version of Granny Goodness from the DC comic books.
I actually remember from watching the film when I was a kid that he was the most frightening to me. Yeah. He was the one I was like scared of. Yeah. He was creepy to me. Yeah. That was creepy looking. I don't know why. It was just so inhuman or something that it was just creepy. Beastman's not really that creepy. He's just like a big gorilla kind of type guy. Like, he's just a beast, man. Yeah, but Karg was, I was like, that's creepy. But anyway, they're doing this raid on his house, and Gwildor, who had invented the keys and everything, he looks at them and he says, I don't like inventions. What is that? What are you talking about? You're an inventor. And he goes, I don't like inventions.
I want to miss that.
That's like, because this is, his inventions are basically getting him in trouble, right? Yeah. Is I think what that's.
Like, wish I would have never invented it now.
Yeah, I think that's what this line's supposed to say. Like, he's tired of getting in trouble for his invention. He goes, I don't like inventions. I just thought that was so funny. Are there any other scenes that you guys thought were funny, or any other lines?
Again, that Skeletor monologue when they get back to Eternia.
Okay.
As he. Well, just to go through the plot to get to this point, they do eventually find out how to use the keys to get back to Eternia. They go to confront Skeletor, who is able to capture them, gets He-Man's sword of power, and puts it in this machine that unlocks the Eye of the Universe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as it's due to open when certain events are transpiring, and grants whoever is standing in front of the Great Eye the power of the universe, right?
Right.
So Skeletor gets on this hollow projector thing that sends his image all across Eternia.
Which was, I always thought that was kind of cool, the two times that we did see that in the film.
Yeah, that was a pretty good idea.
Good,
And he just starts this whole thing of, people of Eternia, I stand before the great eye of the galaxy, chosen by destiny to receive the powers of Grayskull. This inevitable moment will transpire before your eyes, as even He-Man himself bears witness to it. And this keeps going, and as
nice.
as the thing opens, he starts this. Yes, I feel it. The
just-
power fills me.
He's just rubbing it all over his face.
I feel the universe within me.
Yeah.
I am part of the cosmos. The energy flows. And then it gets to this big crescendo. He goes, the universe is power. Pure, unstoppable power. I am that force. I am that power. Kneel before your master. And He-Man's like, no. It's like, fool, you are no longer my equal. I am more than man, more than life. I am a god.
Oh.
Now you will kneel. It is the cheesiest and hammiest Shakespearean acting
he lays
I
it
have
on
ever
so
seen.
thick. But I loved every second of that last scene. That was my pick for my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, Frank Langella did such a great
He
job.
did such a great job.
If it was, the only thing that spoils that, like, it was so good. Like, the whole scene was just so cheesy, so over the top,
Yeah.
so Skeletor in every
And he has that
way.
armor.
What's his first act
And
as Master of the Universe?
Then he turns into this
Plates himself into
golden,
gold. Plates himself in gold. This is his first act of the all-powerful being in the universe. Like any of us would do, obviously.
Okay, look, Skeletor gets some really bad costumes from time to time, but that is by far the worst one he has ever had.
It was insane. It was insane. In that same scene, so the sword, is it the Sword of Eternia? Is that what it's called? Or the Sword of Grayskull? I'm sorry.
It's a sword of power, technically.
Okay, Sword of Power.
I think they call it Sword of Grayskull or something.
In the film, they say the Sword of Grayskull. And
Sword of power.
it's sort of like a key, in a way. It's sort of like a piece of Grayskull. It seems like that it slides by the throne. It has this sort of like built-in sheath, and the sword's placed there, and that's sort of what helps.
Was that not the sword he was using?
It was the sword he was using.
That was the sword
Right?
the whole time, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that was the sword that He-Man had the whole time to
that
get
was
it from
the
him.
sword that He-Man had through the entire film up until the finale.
So he had that power the whole time?
Yeah, right. So
You wouldn't know.
this is what I'm talking
essentially, that's what it is. Like, the sword is the conduit through which He-Man gets his power.
Right, exactly. Because he's not He-Man, right? He's all the time.
No,
Prince.
He-Man is the result of the power of Grayskull. Like, Grayskull was never this dark, gloomy, skull-faced brick thing that we've seen through the cartoons and everything. Originally, it was the Palace of Light, which had some of the wisest people in all of Eternia presiding over the most powerful objects in their world. And in order to protect the power, when Skeletor came about, they decided to change things. They decided to hide the power, compress it, and change the facade of the Palace of Light into Castle Grayskull as we know it today. And they created two swords, the Sword of Power and the Sword of Wisdom. The Sword of Power, which takes the power of Grayskull to create the warrior known as He-Man. He-Man isn't so much Prince Adam as it is in the cartoon. He is more of a end result of the power of Grayskull.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Then you have the Sword of Wisdom, which is She-Ra, which is the equivalent.
So in this film, he's He-Man the whole time, right? And
Yeah, they skip over the Prince Adam.
yeah, right.
I kept
royalty
waiting.
stuff out
So
of
do you
that.
think that happened just before the movie started, right when the sort of battle and siege on Grayskull started? He did the I have the power.
think,
Oh,
yeah, I think that's pretty much what happened. Was
Yeah.
Just that.
when that battle happened where Skeletor takes Grayskull.
Yeah.
it's where Prince Adam decided to give up being himself to be He-Man 24/7.
Yeah, right. I'm just gonna give it over. This is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
For the greater good.
Full time.
And so that brings me to a point. I thought that the film sort of ruined for me the I have the power moment because it happens very quickly. And what I'm talking about is this sort of iconic He-Man holds up the sword, just completely, muscles, golden haired, and he yells, "I have the power!" Right? So
Yeah, that's sort of the closing scene.
So they do it twice.
He does do it. He does do it as he's able to break out of his chains. He like summons his strength and breaks out of the chains.
Whips one and hits somebody.
It was kind of like
was able to knock Skeletor away enough so he's able to pull his sword out of this device that Skeletor had it locked in.
And he immediately yells,
and he quickly uses it. Yeah, quickly goes, I have the power. And then they start clashing.
Yeah, and for me, what I would wanted in this film is for him to pull that out, and then we sort of, the film slows for a second, and we sort of watch He-Man sort of hold the sword, maybe even look at it, and sort of you sort of get this sense of power, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's maybe like a tracking shot up He-Man's torso to his face, and then we see him hold it up and yell, I have the power, and Skeletor be sort of taken aback by this or frightened in a way. But that didn't happen. He literally, no time, he just runs up, grabs it, pulls it out, he's like, I have the power, fight!
He was also being force lightninged time.
Sure.
Using his orange force lightning.
Yeah.
So he kind of had to hurry up and tell everybody about how he had the power.
He had to kind of get that out really quick.
He's like, I got the power.
I got the power. Here we go. I got it. Let's fight. Yeah, I kind of wanted a more grand, I have the power moment. I thought that was great. So, we've been talking about this movie for a while. I think we covered a lot of the scenes. Let's. We'll
wrap up the plot quickly.
Yeah.
Of course, He-Man gets the upper hand on Skeletor, knocks him into a pit.
Sure.
And that's the last we see of him. So, they have this really awkward goodbye scene.
The good journey.
Yeah, where it's all about good journey.
You don't say goodbye. You say good journey.
But it's like, and that's where Gordor sort of says, hey, I can send you back at any time period, any place in the universe. You don't have to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing about Julie's character, the entire movie, was she still laments her parents' death. Her parents died in a skiing accident not too long before the film begins.
A plane. The plane crashed.
Accident.
Yeah.
They decided to fly to Catalina.
They were going to fly.
Yes.
They were supposed to go to the beach. She says, I'm going to stay home. She lies and says she has to do homework so she could hang out with Kevin.
Yeah.
Is what she says. She blames herself for this because then they said, okay, well, we'll take the plane out, which we reveal when we get to what you're talking about. Her dad is the pilot. Right, okay. So the plane apparently crashed, and that's why this Courtney Cox's sort of journey in the film. So, go ahead, Carl.
Yeah. So, as they get ready to leave, and we find that Lubric, who came with them to Eternia, has decided to stay in Eternia. And he's even got like the garb on too, even with.
And he's got a woman now.
Yeah,
he's got a woman and all that stuff.
Up.
Oh my god, he is crazy.
Yeah, he decides to stay. He says, I was a shitty detective.
Nothing was going on Earth.
Staying here.
Yeah, they don't care about any of that stuff here. Yeah. I'm on Eternia. I'm exotic. I'm from another planet.
So in the end, it's Julie and Kevin that go back to Earth, and it's like Gwildor sort of like Julie's never told anybody from that group besides Kevin early on in the movie about her parents' death and what it means to her.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow Gwildor has the forethought to send her back to the time just before her parents leave.
Yeah, Julie and Gwildor didn't have that moment.
Back. Yeah, they didn't have that moment. But she goes and she grabs the key so her parents then can't fly and die. Yeah. So she essentially changes history.
Yeah, she does. And I thought that was funny because her dad's like, give me back them keys. Like, put those keys down, Julie.
Yeah, so that's pretty much how the film ends. Like, it's they have this souvenir from Eternia, a blue sphere, which has He-Man in front of Castle Grayskull, the sword over his head. I have the power!
Now, that's not how the film completely ends, right? So the credits roll.
I almost missed this one.
Before Marvel did it.
Yeah, so it wasn't Nick Fury showing up, but we had a credit scene after. So when He-Man does best Skeletor finally, he basically
throws him down,
knocks it, throws him off of a thing. We never see him land in anything, but Skeletor basically falls to his death.
That was very Palpatine.
True. He falls to his death, and he just in a seemingly endless, pit kind of thing, right? And that's the end of Skeletor, as we know it. Now the credits roll, and there's this sort of orange, like lava esque
Kinda
goop.
like dirty water to me.
Yeah, sort of bubbling. Boom! Skeletor's head pops out, and he says, "I'll be back."
With a smile. I
was
thought he looked like Freddy Krueger.
That was so insane. Yeah, this is like a Terminator sort of,
yeah.
but he didn't even say it like that. We didn't give it like.
I'll be back.
Yeah, he does like very cheeky. He's
He's like, I'll be back.
That was so insane.
Yeah.
Which
he wasn't.
he wasn't back?
Was he? Did he come back in another movie?
Maybe we'll find out.
Oh yeah.
So that's what they were setting up for, right?
I'll be
Was
back.
maybe like, we can do a franchise
years.
here, or something like that. So okay, we've talked about the movie. We've gotten through all of some ridiculous quotes. We've talked about the crazy characters in this film. So really quick, to sort of send us off, this film has been a reboot or a remake or whatever we want to call it. Another Masters of the Universe film has been in the talks for quite some time. It's been through handfuls of writers.
Yeah.
And apparently they're looking at a guy to play He-Man in this. So who knows when this is going to come out? Who knows if the people that are writing it currently, the current version, are even, it's even on the horizon. It could. I fully expect this to drag out, given the sort of the history of the remake. So you guys have seen Twilight? Well, Edward Cullen in Twilight, one of his vampire brethren of their Cullen family or something.
Yeah.
This is who is tapped to apparently play He-Man, to reprise the role of He-Man.
Yeah.
I don't remember the guy's name, but it doesn't look good to me. I didn't like that. So I wanted to ask you guys, who would you cast in this film? Karl, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any idea of who you might cast as He-Man, who you might cast as Skeletor, and any other characters or anything else?
I've sat down last night and really thought about this and how I would do it. I'll go through the casting to begin with, and then I'll explain the plot. Because once I explain the plot, you get an idea of why I'm choosing everybody.
Okay.
Starting obviously with He-Man, I would get Chris Hemsworth. He's got the blonde, he's got the muscles, he's got that really good acting chops that I reckon could sort of have. He has that presence because he's already done Thor, and it's the same type of role.
Sure.
Okay.
Switch out the hammer for the sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to get opposite him, only because they had such good chemistry, I would get Tom Hiddleston, otherwise known as Loki from the Thor film, to play Skeletor.
Oh,
Because they had. Well, you've seen the dynamic those two have on screen as Loki and Thor when they're together. That's the type of thing I could see He-Man and Skeletor doing.
That's pretty amazing. And Tom Hiddleston, he would have the build for a Skeletor, I would imagine. I mean, Skeletor, he was a little more muscular in the cartoon and the action figures, from what I remember. But I think
he had a muscular skeleton.
Everybody was muscular.
Everybody's
because they all used the same mold.
Sure. Swap out the heads in a paint job.
All right.
I think that's good. So go ahead with your plot.
I would have King Randor played by Jeff Bridges. You might know him as Flynn from Tron.
Oh yeah.
Obadiah Stane from Iron Man.
Sure.
So he'd be King Randor.
Okay. So, real quick, who's King Randor?
King Randor,
for anybody who doesn't know,
is the father of Prince Adam, who is He-Man.
Okay.
So
perfect.
King Randor is the one who rules over Eternia.
Okay, I was gonna say, so he's sort of he's the good ruler of the land. Okay, gotcha.
Evelyn, I would have Angelina Jolie.
Okay.
Think Maleficent.
Right.
How she has that very sultry allure to her, but just that little wicked smile and all that type of stuff that she does so well. That's plays really well in the character. Man-at-Arms, I would bring Dolph Lundgren back.
Bring Dolph Lundgren.
Bring him back as Man-at-Arms.
Exactly.
A little nod to the original, and now he's older. He's got the age lines now. I reckon he could make a really good Man-at-Arms.
Well, I watched a video with Dolph Lundgren being interviewed about this, about returning for another Masters of the Universe film. He said he would love to, which I don't imagine any reason why he wouldn't. He's done some okay films in the past,
yeah.
a couple decades, but he's done some pretty terrible films. So he's got bills to pay. I'm sure that he would have no problem jumping into a Masters of the Universe role. He said he would like to play King Randolph.
Oh.
Okay. Then he said he would do anything, actually, as long as he didn't have to wear the loincloth.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd definitely have him as Man-at-Arms. To play Teela, I would go Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
She does really well in Expendables 3.
Yeah,
and she could probably use a paycheck after getting her ass kicked a couple of times in the
Sure, and she's buddies with Dolph,
Yeah, so, I sort of thought, I mainly thought Ronda Rousey because I want that, I've basically setting up sequel bait. There's a character that I want to bring into the movie at the end that would go up against Rousey in the sequel.
Okay.
So I've already planned.
You're thinking about it, Carl. You're thinking about it. He's thinking about it.
I would have Beastman in here. The voice would be done by Frank Welker. You would know him as Megatron from Transformers. Basically,
okay.
Look at anything that was animated from like 1970 through to 2000. The guy was everywhere. He's Scooby-Doo, for fuck's sake. For the Sorceress, I'd bring in Tara Strong, who you might know as the voice of Harley Quinn and Batgirl.
Okay.
She's got that nice bubbly blonde to her that would work really well for the Sorceress. Now, the next 3 bit parts, but there's reasons why I'm casting such people. I would bring in Shadow Weaver, who would be played by Ray DeLisle, who is the voice of Mandy from Grim and Evil, Wonder Woman, and anything of the Lego DC anime movies.
Mm-hmm.
I would bring in Despara, played by Gal Gadot, who's going to be Wonder Woman in the upcoming Wonder Woman film.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would also have Hordak, played by Kevin motherfucking Conroy. Because Batman.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Alright. So the reason why I've cast everyone as such is I basically want to make the movie versions of the 2012 DC comic book series. There's been 3 volumes done so far, and it is done so well that I reckon it could lend to a really good trilogy of films.
Okay. So what is the general arc?
The first volume, you get Adam, who's a woodsman in the Eternia Forest, has nightmares about a strange barbarian man fighting a guy with a skull face. So He-Man and Skeletor, respectively.
Oh, okay. That's ooh.
His father, who thinks he's a king, like the scene that I'd have to. You'd only have one scene of King Randor. This is why I kept it short. He's asking about the good china when he's being served breakfast. Like, he thinks he's King Randor, but he's not. And then he passes away. Adam makes his way towards somewhere. He finds a bird that takes him on this adventure towards Castle Grayskull. Along the way, he's captured by a brainwashed man-at-arms who is a minion of Evil Lyn, and they're forced to fight. During this, Adam will be saved by Teela, so it brings her into it, who's trying to save her brainwashed father. She knows about the brainwashing, she knows Skeletor's evil, she even knows Adam is meant for bigger things. Like, the majority of this is basically going to be Adam doesn't realize he's He-Man, and that's what the journey for the first one is.
Gotcha.
So after Adam and Man-at-Arms battle, Man-at-Arms brainwashing wears off, and the 3 of them escape from Evil Lyn's little camp place, she reports back to Skeletor, getting him into the mix. I'd put in a Beastman battle in a cave where a green tiger with yellow stripes saves Adam mid-fight.
Warcat, right? Is it
Battlecat?
Battlecat.
And then leads Adam into this area of the cave where the Sword of Power is. And we find that the cave that they wandered into is actually a back entrance to Castle Grayskull. At this point, just by pure instinct, Adam does, I have the power, and becomes He-Man. This leads into a fight where the 3 of them, well, technically 4 of them, go up against, like, I wouldn't really put in some minion soldiers. I'd probably bring in a couple of guys like Trapjaw and Merman in little bit parts to fight for Skeletor's crew. We find out that Skeletor is the one that wiped Adam's mind of being He-Man, so he could take control of Castle Grayskull. Just before he sends a lethal blast from his Havoc staff to Adam, or to He-Man. The bird transforms into the Sorceress and takes the shot. He-Man obviously triumphs. and Skeletor is spirited away. And then you have a small scene between the Sorceress and Man-at-Arms hinting at the romance that's always been there, because technically Teela is the Sorceress's daughter, as well as Duncan's daughter. Teela eventually becomes the new Sorceress in the second film.
Pretty cool. I like this.
I do a post-credits where Shadow Weaver, who's this mystic from the She-Ra universe, is walking through a dark technology like throne room. She reports that Skeletor has failed and is being punished, and you hear him getting his ass kicked in the background. Then you hear Hordak, like he be in shadows and everything, so all you hear is Conroy's voice. That it's time for the invasion to begin, and asks his general if she is ready, which is this blonde-haired woman who you could tell is like related to He-Man. So that's the She-Ra connection.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And she puts on her Hordak-like face mask and leaves. Hordak asks Shadow Weaver, does she know the connection with him? Obviously pushing the hint that Despara is She-Ra. And that would lead into the second film, where it would be more about an invasion by Hordak's forces into Eternia to try and take everything over. Get a few more revelations about the background of Skeletor actually being He-Man's uncle and Randor's brother. And also the story behind why She-Ra is with Hordak and she switched sides in the end. Third film would just be a gigantic fuck-off battle.
Nice. Well, that sounds actually really awesome. I love all of that stuff. That sounds like a great comic series too. I'm gonna have to pick that up because...
Yeah, I would definitely recommend. The trade paperbacks are at your local comic book stores right now. There's 3 volumes. It'll just be Masters of the Universe will be the first volume, and then there'll be volume 2 and volume 3, which is called the Eternity War.
Awesome.
So those are out there. Also, if you get a chance, there's a sub-series that goes in between volumes 1 and 2 called DC Universe versus Masters of the Universe, where you have Superman, Wonder Woman, and all that go up against the Masters of the Universe.
Very cool.
And it's a really good, nice little 6-part series.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's a nice crossover. I think we're about out of time here. I think we really got into Masters of the Universe. I think we really got into He-Man.
We really did this movie. We have the power.
We had the power.
As somebody that I saw this at the cinemas as a kid, I continue to watch it as an adult. It's great to sort of get back and relive these types of things, and it was actually a good thing for me as well to hear from you guys. You guys might have grown up with the He-Man property, but you've never seen the film.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't seen the film.
It's interesting to see.
Yeah.
See your reactions to it as well.
I was
compared to
totally
mine,
excited.
which is just an old school nostalgia purely thing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and that's what this podcast is all about. I want to thank you both for being here. Karl, thanks for joining us to talk about Masters of the Universe.
Thanks, Karl.
Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll be back when we go through some of the other ones, like Secret of the Sword, the Christmas special.
Oh, absolutely.
or one of a billion and one other 80s films that I can talk about for hours.
For sure. Karl will be a recurring personality on the show. Joe, my co-host, thanks for being here. Glad you liked your first viewing of Masters of the Universe.
Thanks for giving me a reason.
Yeah, no problem. So with that, stay tuned. We'll have some more episodes coming up. So stay tuned to the Outerhaven.net. I'll be doing some pre-show posts on there, so you can get a look at the next film that we'll be doing, and I'll probably put the trailer up there. So thanks for joining us for this first episode, Internet. We really appreciate it, and stay tuned at the Outerhaven.net for more episodes of I Remember It Fondly. Thank you.